I want to tell you about two guys who grew up on the same street, same neighborhood, same public school, same starting line. By the time they were both 45, one of them was worth $2.3 million, financially free, working because he wanted to, not because he had to. The other one was still living paycheck to paycheck. Good job, nice car, decent house, and somehow every single month broke. Same city, same opportunities. A 20-year gap in outcomes so wide it looks like they lived completely different lives. The difference was not income, it was not luck, it was not inheritance. It was one thing: how they managed the money they already had. Here is the uncomfortable truth that most financial content refuses to say out loud. The average American will earn between $1.5 million and $2.5 million over their working lifetime. Not rich people money. Average. Regular job, regular salary, regular American. Most of them will retire with less than $50,000 in accessible savings. They earned millions. They kept almost none of it. Not because they spent it on yachts or designer clothes or crazy investments, because nobody ever showed them a system. A real, simple, practical system for where the money should go the moment it hits their account before life absorbs it, before habits spend it, before it disappears the way it always has. That system is what today is about. It is called the 25-15-50-10 rule. 4 numbers. 1 framework. The exact way the 1% think about every dollar they earn, and the exact thing that separates the guy who retired at 45 from the one still waiting for Friday's paycheck. Let me show you how it works. They earned millions. They kept almost none of it, not because of bad luck, because nobody showed them a system. Before we get into the numbers, I need to share the idea underneath all of this, because without it, the framework is just math. With it, the math actually changes your life. Look at where wealth comes from in America. About 75% of the truly wealthy are entrepreneurs, people who own businesses. Around 15% are investors, people who own assets. A small percentage inherited. A tiny fraction are athletes or entertainers. Notice what they all have in common? They own something. The entrepreneur owns a business. The investor owns stocks, real estate, assets. The inheritor owns a trust. Even the athlete owns a rare, irreplaceable skill. Now look at the average American. They own a job, which means someone else owns their time. Someone else sets their schedule, their salary, their raises, their layoffs. They trade hours for dollars, and the moment they stop trading, the dollars stop coming. If you don't own something that works while you sleep, something that grows while you live your life, you are always one job loss, one health crisis, one bad month away from financial disaster. The 25-15-50-10 rule is about changing that. It is about taking the income you already earn from your job and systematically using it to buy your way into the ownership class. One paycheck at a time. Let's start with the first number. If you don't own something, someone else owns you. The 25-15-50-10 rule is how you start buying your freedom back. Let me introduce you to two brothers. Different choices, same starting point. Jake starts investing $200 a month at age 22. Nothing dramatic. $200, the cost of a decent dinner out once a week in most American cities. His brother Danny thinks $200 a month is too small to matter. He waits until he's making real money. At 32, he starts investing $350 a month, almost double what Jake put in. Fast forward to age 62. Both brothers stop investing. Danny put in more money every month. He invested for 30 years. His total contributions, $126,000. Jake put in less money every month. He invested for 40 years. His total contributions, $96,000. Danny saved more? Jake should have less, right? At 10% average annual returns, the historical average of the U.S. stock market over the past 100 years, Danny's portfolio is worth $789,000. Jake's portfolio is worth $1,264,816. Jake invested $30,000 less and ended up with $475,000 more. Not because he picked better stocks, not because he was smarter, simply because he started 10 years earlier. That is compound interest, and it is the most powerful force in personal finance, more powerful than your salary, your job title, or the state of the economy. Here's what the 25% growth rule means in practice. The moment your paycheck hits your account, before you pay rent, before you buy groceries, before you do anything, 25% leaves automatically. It goes into growth assets. For most people starting out, that means one thing: a low-cost index fund inside a Roth IRA. A Roth IRA is one of the greatest financial gifts the US tax code offers. You invest money you've already paid taxes on, it grows completely tax-free for decades. And when you retire, you withdraw every dollar, every gain, every penny of compound interest with zero taxes owed. None. Zero. The IRS never sees it again. You contribute up to $7,000 per year if you're under 50. Set up the account on Fidelity, Vanguard, or Schwab. Put it in a total stock market index fund. Set up an automatic monthly transfer on payday. Then, and this is critical, do not touch it. The people who build wealth are not the ones who pick the smartest stocks. They are the ones who consistently put money in and consistently leave it alone. Your 401k matters too. If your employer offers a match, contribute at least enough to get the full match. Every dollar your employer matches is a 100% instant return on your investment. There is no investment in the world that beats free money. 25% of your income, growing automatically, every single month, while you go about your life. That is the first pillar. Jake invested $30,000 less than his brother and ended up with $475,000 more. That is compound interest, and it rewards one thing starting. Now, I need to tell you about the mistake that almost destroyed me. I was 23, just starting out. I had read about investing. I knew about compound interest. I was putting every spare dollar into growth. I felt like I had figured it out. Then my car broke down. Not a small repair, the engine, in the parking lot of my job on a Monday morning in January. I had $200 in my checking account. My rent was due in 2 weeks. My investment account had money in it, but selling in a panic at whatever price the market was at that moment wasn't a plan. It was a loss. I borrowed money to fix the car. The debt came with interest. The interest made the next month tighter. The tighter month made the month after that harder. One engine, one unexpected Monday morning, set me back 8 months. That is what happens when you skip the 15%. 57% of Americans cannot cover a $1,000 emergency without going into debt. They might be investing, they might be doing everything else right, but without a stability fund, one bad day unravels months of progress. Here is how the 15% stability fund works. First, calculate your monthly baseline. List your core expenses only: rent or mortgage, groceries, utilities, transportation, health insurance, the things that keep you alive and functioning. Add them up, multiply that number by 5. That is your target stability fund. 5 months of your basic life, sitting in cash, available within 24 hours, earning interest while it waits. For the average American, that's somewhere between $7,500 and $12,000. Where do you keep it? A high-yield savings account. In 2026, online banks like SoFi, Ally, and Marcus by Goldman Sachs are offering 4% to 5% annual interest with no penalties for withdrawal. Your money earns something while it waits, and it is never locked away when you need it. 3 rules for this money. 1. It must be accessible within 24 hours. Never lock emergency money in an account that penalizes withdrawal. 2. It is zero risk. No stocks, no crypto, no bonds. When an emergency hits, the market might be down 20%. You cannot afford to sell at the bottom just to fix a water heater. 3. It must always earn something. Inflation eats cash that sits in a zero-interest account. Park it somewhere that pays you to wait. Once this fund is fully built, that 15% rolls into your growth investments and accelerates your wealth building dramatically. The stability fund does not feel exciting. It does not feel like wealth building. It is the difference between one bad day derailing everything you've built and one bad day being an inconvenience you handle in 20 minutes. One engine, one Monday morning, 8 months of setback. The 15% stability fund is not boring. It is the reason everything else survives. I want you to meet 2 people who work in the same office building in Austin, Texas. Marcus earns $72,000 a year. He drives a 2022 BMW. He's leasing for $680 a month. He lives in a modern one-bedroom for $2,100. He eats out 4 times a week, has 9 subscriptions he's mostly forgotten about, and wears clothes from brands his coworkers recognize. From the outside, Marcus looks like he's doing well. His actual savings, $340 in his checking account, retirement contributions, 0, emergency fund, a credit card with a $5,000 limit he thinks of as backup. James earns $68,000 a year, $4,000 less than Marcus. He drives a 2019 Honda Civic he owns outright. He lives in a 2-bedroom apartment and rents the second room to a friend for $700 a month. He cooks most of his meals, has 3 subscriptions he actually uses, and doesn't think much about what he's wearing. From the outside, James looks ordinary. His actual savings, $23,000. Roth IRA balance after 3 years, $14,600. Emergency fund, fully funded. Same city, similar income. One is building wealth, one is building an image. This is what the 50% essentials rule is designed to prevent. The average American spends 65 to 70% of their income on what they call essentials. The 50% rule forces that number down not by deprivation, but by honesty. Because most of what we call essential is not actually essential. Let me be direct about this. Essential: rent or mortgage, groceries, utilities, basic transportation, health insurance, internet you need for work. Not essential: the Uber Eats habit, the gym membership you used 3 times this year, the streaming services you forgot you had, the lease payment on a car you bought to impress people who aren't paying your bills. The 2 biggest categories in most American budgets, housing and transportation, are where the most money is either saved or destroyed. Housing. Never let your housing cost exceed 30% of your gross income. Most financial advisors say this, most Americans ignore it. If you're paying 40% or 45% of your income on rent or mortgage, everything else is already struggling. Renegotiate your lease when it's up. Landlords would rather give you a small concession than find a new tenant. If you have a spare room, rent it. James's $700 a month in rent income is $8,400 a year. He's not earning at his job. Transportation. The average new car payment in America right now is $735 per month. That is not transportation. That is a monthly subscription to the feeling of having a nice car. Buy used. A 3-year-old reliable sedan costs half the price of a new one and gets you to the same places. And here's the system that replaces willpower because willpower runs out. Before any purchase that isn't obviously essential, ask 3 questions. Is this something I've been thinking about for more than 7 days, or did I see it and want it immediately? If it's impulse, wait 7 days. Most of the time, the desire disappears without you doing anything at all. Am I buying this because of the value or because of the brand? A $200 pair of sneakers worn twice is $100 per wear. A $60 pair worn 100 times is 60 cents per wear. Wealthy people don't chase brands, they chase value. And finally, will this actually improve my life a month from now? Not today, a month from now. If the honest answer is probably not, put it back. The goal isn't to feel deprived. The goal is to stop funding an image and start building a reality. Marcus looks rich. James is becoming rich. Only one of those outcomes compounds over time. Marcus looks rich. James is becoming rich. Only one of those outcomes compounds over time. Here is the part that every strict financial system gets wrong. They leave no room for joy, and systems without joy don't last. 92% of people who go through intense saving periods report overspending immediately after. They white-knuckle it for 3 months, they feel virtuous, and then one Friday night they blow $400 at dinner because the pressure built up until it exploded. The 10% reward fund exists to prevent exactly that. This is not a loophole. It is not an excuse. It is a strategic pressure valve built into the system because a financial plan you can actually live with for 20 years beats a perfect plan you abandon in 4 months. Here is how it works. Open a completely separate account. Name it something that means something to you. Joy Fund, Freedom Account, whatever makes you want to protect it. Set up an automatic transfer of 10% of your income on payday. It lands in that account before you can spend it on something unconscious. That is your guilt-free money. You can spend every dollar of it on whatever brings you genuine happiness. A weekend trip to see your favorite team play, a dinner that costs more than it should, a concert, a hobby, a gift for someone you love. The rule: when it's gone until next month. No raiding the stability fund, no borrowing from growth. When the joy account hits zero, you wait. This is what makes it work. The limit makes you spend it intentionally instead of mindlessly. And here's the thing I want you to really hear. The people who build long-term wealth are not the ones who never have fun. They're the ones who have planned fun, funded fun, intentional fun that doesn't destroy progress. The 10% means you never have to feel guilty about a vacation, a dinner, or anything that genuinely fills your life up because you already planned for it. A financial plan you can live with for 20 years beats a perfect plan you abandon in 4 months. The 10% is what makes the other 90% sustainable. Let me show you what this looks like in real numbers for a real American household. Take-home pay after taxes, $4,200 per month. That's roughly a $65,000 to $70,000 annual salary, solidly average. 25% growth, $1,050 per month. Goes into Roth IRA and index funds on payday. Automated, invisible, untouched. 15% stability, $630 per month. Goes into a high-yield savings account until the 5-month fund is fully built. Then rolls into growth. 50% essentials, $2,100 per month. Rent or mortgage, groceries, utilities, transportation, insurance. The things that keep life running. Nothing more. 10% rewards, $420 per month. Joy account, guilt-free. Guilt-free means completely free, no second guessing, no justifying, no apologizing for spending it. That is the entire system. And here is what happens to the person who runs this system for 10 years on a $65,000 salary without a single raise. Their Roth IRA at 10% average annual returns, approximately $204,000. Their stability fund, fully funded and earning 4% interest. Their lifestyle, identical to someone spending 65% on essentials, but with $204,000 in investments they never think about. The raise they eventually get, it doesn't upgrade the lifestyle. It upgrades the 25%. That is the secret the 1% understand that everyone else doesn't. Income is the engine. The system is the steering wheel. Without the system, more income just means more spending. With the system, more income means faster compounding, earlier freedom, and the day which comes sooner than you think when the investments generate more than the job. Income is the engine. The system is the steering wheel. Without the system, a raise just means more spending. Let me bring it back to those two guys from the beginning. Same street, same school, same starting line. One of them learned this system in his 20s and applied it imperfectly, not perfectly, not dramatically, just consistently. Some months the percentages were off, some months life happened. But the system was always there, always directing money where it needed to go, always building something in the background. The other one kept saying he'd figure out his finances when things settled down, when the car was paid off, when the kids were older, when he got the promotion, when life got a little easier. It never settled down, it never got easier, the intention was always there, the system never was. At 45, one of them works because he wants to, the other works because he has to. The difference between those two outcomes is not intelligence, it is not income, it is not luck or timing or who you know. It is this: 25% growing quietly while you live your life, 15% protecting everything you've built, 50% covering what you actually need, nothing more, 10% reminding you why any of this is worth doing. That is it. That is the entire gap between the two guys on the same street. You have the system now, all of it, the exact framework, the real numbers, the stories that show you what it looks like when it works and what it costs when it doesn't. The only variable left is the one I cannot control for you: what you do with it tomorrow morning. One of them works because he wants to. The other works because he has to. The only difference between them was a system.